our man, Bomani Jones. Bomani Jones, of course, you know him formerly of ESPN, does a lot of great stuff. Podcast is booming as well. Bomani Jones here on the Morning Roast. We've had him on for 2 times. The Right Time podcast, of course, has been going on for a long, long time. I love it. And, Bo, let's start here, man. As we say, good morning. Welcome back to the Bay Area Airways with Joe Shasky, the Butcher, and Bonte Hill. And we appreciate it again, the time. Michael Lombardi made the news yesterday because he was talking about Trey Lance, and we'll get into everything going on with the 49ers quarterback. But one comment, and I'm glad we had you on today because you handle these topics very, very well. And I know I cringed when I heard this, but Michael Lombardi basically said when Trey Lance's mama lifted him from the crib, he just didn't have that quarterback instinct. And if you want to say he's not a good quarterback, if you want to say he's inaccurate, that's fine. Why did we have to go to extra step to try to go viral here? And Michael Lombardi, it's not the first time he said something about a black quarterback. We know what he said about Cam Newton when he was coming out in the draft. What went through your head when you heard this or saw this clip or read this clip from Michael Lombardi yesterday?
Well, I'll be honest, this is the first time I've heard it, and my question is, what does that mean?
Yeah. Exactly. We can play the audio for you. Would you like to hear the audio?
Play the audio. Play the audio.
Play the audio
yeah,
for you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's play the audio right here.
As you go down this road with Lance, it just becomes harder and harder and harder. And you could show all the clips of him moving and all that stuff. At the end of the day, when his mama lifted him from the crib, he just didn't have that quarterback instinct. He is not going to be the backup quarterback. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but there's no chance. There is no chance based on the evidence that I've seen and based on what I've heard.
Michael. So that was Michael Lombardi yesterday on this podcast, the GM Shuffle. So your thoughts after hearing that?
Okay, so the thing that gets me, like, part of it is, like, a little bit small, and it was the fact that he used the word mama. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I felt like a bit of an unnecessary affectation that I don't think that he uses if he's talking about, say, Sam Darnold, for example, right?
Right.
Now, where this gets to be interesting, we're talking about Lance, of course, is, did he ever say that about Sam Darnold? He's right there, right? Like, Mr. I'm seeing ghosts, as bad as things got with Darnold, I don't recall people using terms so hyperbolic and acting like the issue was so essential. And that's the part that, to me, feels like happens more to black people in this space than anybody else. And I could be wrong because, again, I don't really understand what in the world he's talking about, number one. And number two, how you could be so sure about somebody where the sample size that we're dealing with is so small. That's the whole thing with everything that surrounds Lance that I just find to be so confusing is that the talent is obvious and so many people are willing to bail on him based on a small sample size to jump on board a dude that's far less talented and also dealing with a pretty small sample size.
Yeah, no doubt. He also said, Michael Lombardi, back in 2011, and Chasky, I want you to jump in here, but he goes, what worries me about Cam Newton is is he a person who is going to work hard? Will he be dedicated? Is the money going to spoil him? Will he take coaching? What kind of leader will he be? It's just fact. I'm a black man, Bomani. I don't hear the stuff about the Sam Darnolds of the world or the Baker Mayfields or the Warner Hill. Even Johnny Manziel didn't hear those things about him. So I'll let you jump in here, Shasky. But it's just Michael Lombardi just talking just to talk. It was just like, why you got to bring his mama into it?
I've had so many issues with Lombardi over the years. But Bomani, I guess my bigger takeaway is why is it we have to talk so inhumane when, like, we're analyzing sports? We're very lucky to do what we do. We're talking about kids. I mean, the guy's 23 years old. I get he's a professional. He's made millions of dollars, and there's an envy on some level from fans or media people. I just feel like whether it's the Jordan Poole situation locally, James Wiseman, Trey Lance, the common denominator is this ability to bully these people inhumanely. We can't just break the games down with a little bit of grace. We have to go flying over the top. I just don't understand why we do this in sports.
Well, yeah, I think that there's the over-the-top issue, right? That certainly exists in this. But I think that there's a very particular black quarterback issue that comes in, right?
True.
Like, have you ever heard of a situation where a team traded 3 first-round picks in order to get a prospect and seemed so willing to bail? And we're not talking about, for example, a Johnny Manziel type that seems to bring you everything else off the field. I haven't heard Trey Lance talk in a long time, but the thing that struck me with him coming out of college is how composed and professional and all those things that he seemed to be, and he's had the worst luck in the world, and everybody is ready to bail for the last pick in the draft. And I know that things went well last season. Like, I don't want to ignore what Purdy managed to do, but I've still never seen a team or a fan base or anything so willing to bail on something that could be potentially very, very good.
So I want to follow up on that because we all think Kyle Shanahan's really smart and he knows what he's doing. Why do you think they're so ready to bail on him? They're just because, like, you brought up Johnny Manziel, and it really triggers me because I feel like Johnny Manziel, there was an element of he literally did not care. Right. When I watch Trey Lance, I actually in the pocket, I see a guy that really does care and is like afraid to make a mistake. It's totally different. Like he's actually putting in the work. He just might not be good enough, or maybe he doesn't process at the line the way other guys do, or for Kyle Shanahan's system. I don't know exactly what they're looking at. Why do you think they're so quick to bail?
I don't know. And I will say this. I don't understand anything when it comes to Kyle Shanahan and how he views quarterbacks. He gets to slide for the fact that they passed up on Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson before we knew this other stuff.
Yeah.
Take Solomon Thomas. Because we'll just go get Kirk Cousins. And then you wind up getting Jimmy Garoppolo, who was the ceiling that prevented you to win Super Bowls. And we still think of him as being, I mean, I think Shanahan's really, really good.
Right.
But I think that with the quarterback stuff, we have to admit, he doesn't make any sense. Like, all of that happens, and then you trade 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance, and then you bail on him. I don't understand anything when it comes to him about this, but the idea that they're not even pretending and they're saying, yeah, he's in a battle for backup with Sam Darnold, or at least that's my understanding. No. You don't even if that's true, you don't say that out loud, because now everybody bails on the dude because we all knew Sam Darnold stinks.
You know, Bo, it's so funny because I've been on these airways yelling this stuff. Chasky knows when they took Solomon Thomas, I've been yelling, and people say, Bonte, you're crazy. They keep going to the NFC Championship game. Not only did they not take Watson, but they bail on Kirk Cousins because they was like, oh, wait, he's in Minnesota. But then they say, although I agree with it at the time, Tom Brady's marginally better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but you know what? He ain't good enough to be here. He ain't good enough to be here. Did you flirt with Matthew Stafford? They're like, So we're still trying to figure out what Shanahan wants at quarterback. And by the way, there's a chance Kirk Cousins may be here next year. So our life is screwed here in 49er land, Bo.
Ooh, boy, I mean, Kirk Cousins is a better version of Jimmy Garoppolo with the same problem. He's going to do something that makes it to where you can't win.
Yeah.
What did you think of the quarterback, Doc? Because my big takeaway was, damn, Patrick Mahomes is really that dude.
And Andy Reid is a perfect compliment for his genius. Like, there's a blend of science and art when I watch the two of their partnerships.
But why is it that when I watch NFL Network, or, you know, everybody's talking, like, oh, my God, Kirk Cousins is so tough. He stole our hearts here in America. And I'm thinking to myself, that's what y'all took away from this documentary? What did you take away from the quarterback, Doc?
Well, for me, Patrick Mahomes is the closest thing to Michael Jordan as a team sport athlete that we've seen since Jordan. And that was what I walked away from. Like, seeing the way he get into it with those dudes on the field and all of that stuff, I was like, oh, baby, I didn't know he had it in him like that. I didn't realize that he was that guy, and he is 100% that guy. Like, I think I'm with you that I came away from that marveling at Mahomes more than anything else. I think that people talk so much about Cousins in it because he's a person that I think a lot of people believe that they would not like because he's just a little bit corny. And his corny turned out to be the endearing kind of corny.
Right.
And so I think that people are like, oh, okay, I can get with that. But that shouldn't even been quarterbacks. That should have just been Patrick Mahomes. Like, you think about that for a second. If it's Tom Brady, you think you're about to have a documentary series that got Tom Brady and Marcus Mariota on it?
Hell nah.
That's not happening.
No, not at all. Not at all. What's your thoughts of Brock Purdy from afar? Because inside the Niner bubble, he's obviously what he did last year was incredible, and he hurts himself, so there's this injury question mark, and it seems like he's feeling healthy. But I mean, people are comparing him to Drew Brees and Joe Montana, and that feels way premature. But at the same time, like, what we saw last year was real. What are your thoughts on Brock Purdy?
Well, what we saw last year was real, but I think that we've all been watching quarterbacks and these young guys who jump in these situations enough that we know that last year was real, but last year is not this year. And yes, there's going to be the injury part of it that we need to see, and that's part of what leaves me so fascinated by how enthusiastic and how sure that people are that this is something, like, this is the real deal, and you just give up on what everything else is. Like, I think I've said this on this show before. where if I see Brock Purdy pull that off, that actually makes me more excited about what's possible with Trey Lance. If somebody more talented can do this, is there, then what is it that he could possibly bring? But with Purdy, I just think it's going to be a matter of wait and see. And I think that if there's anybody that knows that seeing one excellent season doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the future for a guy, it would be the dude that coached Robert Griffin. Yeah. So I am much more on a let's see how this goes program when it comes to Purdy. But that doesn't take away from anything that he did last year, right? This doesn't mean that he can't be good. I just don't understand why people are so sure that this is going to happen.
I got to ask you this before we let you go, Bo, because you're tapped in with the NBA as well, and we got the Warriors around here. Media Day, October 2nd. Chris Paul's coming in the building. But James Harden out in China basically calling Daryl Morey a liar. The same guy who traded him to bring him to Houston, the same guy who traded for him to bring him to Philadelphia, he goes out there and calls him a liar out there in China. And we know the history between China and Daryl Morey and whatnot. What's your takeaway on James Harden, man? Because the dude to me is just straight up sucker. I'm going to just say, he's a great basketball player, but the way he goes about his business is just, you want to talk about corny, the bad corny. That's what that is when it comes to James Harden, in my opinion.
Well, I think the question for me is, did he lie to him? And what did he lie to him about? And getting to the bottom of that question would be the only way, I think, for us to truly offer a real judgment on what it is that Harden did. What I do know about James Harden is somewhere in his life, he figured out that the most effective negotiating strategy for him is to inflict pain upon other people. If you're not getting down with what I want, I'm going to make this terribly uncomfortable for you. My understanding is that's what happened in Oklahoma City. That's definitely what happened in Houston. The Nets didn't even really let it get that far. They're like, all right, cool. Yeah, I give, uncle. There we go. Now, what I think happened with both Morey and Harden in this is both of them are behaving the ways they normally behave in situations like these. But each of them thought that the other owed them in such a way that they said, he ain't going to do me like that. And then they looked up and they doing each other like that because that's how both sides do things. Like, look, maybe Morey told him, we'll give you the super duper, you do us this solid to take this pay cut right now, and we'll take care of you on the back end. Given the way the business happens in the NBA, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. If he did that and then it didn't go, Harden's not really trying to hear that. If he said, okay, I'll opt in and you'll trade me, and Morey's like, okay, we'll trade you, but only if we get a good trade, Harden probably said, okay, cool. And then the word gets out, okay, well, we're not looking for a trade anymore. James Harden's like, no, you're going to keep looking for a trade. Just you watch. And so his only ability to get what he wants is to do something like this. And I agree with you. I don't have a lot of respect for the idea that I'm just going to throw a temper tantrum. Right. I'm more inclined to be like, all right, cool. I got to figure this out and make it happen. Sometimes things are a little bit rough. This is what you do, da-da-da. That is not James Harden. No. That is not him. He sees no reason why it is that he should have to sit around and deal with this. And Daryl Morey, who is terrible at people stuff, we saw this happen with Ben Simmons. He ain't the one that's got to be in that locker room. He ain't the one that's got to be on that team. So he's willing to stay upstairs and sit around and wait until he gets whatever it is that he's looking for in a trade. I just don't think he's going to be able to get this. Like, I'm shocked the Clippers even want James Harden because I feel like he has demonstrated that no matter how good he is, you cannot win with him in the end. Why would you want to pick up somebody that gives you that, gives you that obvious ceiling? Like I said about Jimmy Garoppolo. At some point, he's going to do something, and you're not going to be able to win. Just because James Harden is overall better doesn't change the fact that is an intractable ceiling.
Who's in more of a win-now mode right now? Chris Paul with the Warriors, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets.
Oh, Chris Paul.
More than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Because I don't think that Aaron Rodgers thinks that this season is the last season. Like, I think that he believes that they could go do this next year, and I think that he believes he's got an infrastructure that's set up to where, the Jets look good, right? Like, this isn't a they can only do this right now kind of situation. Chris Paul is on a team with a bunch of dudes that have never liked him. Like, let's just stop and think about this for a second. His body consistently breaks down, and he's surrounded by dudes that are like, "Hey, man, all right, I guess." I'd be trying to win now so I could get the hell out of there. Personally, if I were him, I can't think of a situation like this. Like the closest that I could think of is Dennis Rodman going to play for the Bulls. But Dennis Rodman was still really, really good. Chris Paul is not.
Oh, boy. We got a lot of tweets that we've deleted about Chris Paul out here in the Bay Area. Should be a very interesting season. But before we get you out, Bo, and we appreciate the time, our poll question on YouTube today.
Oh, yeah.
Do you still carry a wallet?
Let me set this
up. Yes or no? Let him set it up because I'm still a wallet guy. I'm old school.
Yeah, so B's old school. He had his wallet out, and I wear a lot of shorts and sweatpants stuff. So I went to like the phone, the Cheapo Depot Amazon one, but like the phone with the card thing in the back and just enough room for my ID, my health card, and a credit card, and the key card to get here into the building. That's it. I don't carry a wallet, and it's liberating. Do you have a separate wallet?
Yeah, I still carry a wallet. It's a couple things on it. One, I carry a wallet, but I also carry bags, so I keep the wallet in the bag. So I have the liberation of not having the wallet in my pocket while also having the wallet on me. Number two, I got to be honest with you. I exist in a life at this point that every now and then I need to let people with money understand that I'm in this room. You know what I mean? Like I need them to understand that I'm playing similar games as they are. I didn't make the rules of this. You know what I'm saying?
But the best answer we've had today.
Yeah, you get where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
You landed the dismount.
Sometimes you got to get in there and be like, "Yeah, I got a nice watch too." Okay, yeah, I got this Ferragamo wallet. Yeah, you see me pull this out of there. Okay, cool. Like they pick up on those little things. Recognize that I ain't no imposter. And I'll be honest with you, I come out here pulling this stuff out the back of my phone. I look like I'm fronting.
Well, I love it. I love it. Hey, before you get out of it, did you catch the Johnny Manziel doc? Because it disgusted me on a variety of levels. The family, the enabling, like the twinkle in the eye, just him basically, to me, it was him trying to excuse horrific behavior at every single turn. I don't know. I felt dirty watching the whole thing, and it actually makes me hate the whole Johnny Manziel thing even more, and him, the individual. Like, when we talk about busts, his zero care whatsoever, that is a bust. Like, I don't know. It really bugged me.
All right, so you remember when they had that cover of Cam Newton, Blaine Gabbert, and Jake Locker on Sports Illustrated?
I'll never forget it.
Oh, yeah.
And they talked about the hardest decision. Now, do you also remember a few years later when they did, I guess it may have been the next year, when they did that cover with Tyrann Mathieu, and it was the one where they did the story, the big bombshell story about the honey badger.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about both of those stories that you'll note is that both covers were stock footage, and they were both stock footage because they could not get the subjects of the stories that they wanted to do interviews with them, so they had to scrape it together and figure it out. But somewhere along the way, somebody had decided that they were doing these cover stories, and it was too late to bail, so they had to make the most of it. That whole documentary, to me, felt like they were like, cool, we going to make a documentary, and then they turned the stuff in, and Netflix was like, damn, that's it? And then they had to figure out how to put it together and make it into something. Like, I thought it was simply not a good film on a number of levels. One, Johnny Manziel played on a team that had literally 6 first-round picks
Mike Evans.
on offense.
Mike Evans wasn't even interviewed.
Mike Evans, none of those guys were interviewed, right? Like, there was only but so good of a story they could tell because they tried to do it so fast, and they did it in a way that I thought was ultimately, very incomplete. Like, the context they gave of the Alabama game was not good enough to really get you an understanding that this dude went from literally nothing to the biggest star in college football in the span of a week. They didn't even tie it up at the back end, so you tell me that he had all these problems, you tell me he was doing dope, you tell me all of this, and then he gets to the end to be like, yeah, I don't think he's ready to come outside. Like, that isn't a satisfying ending at all. Like none of it. I would have preferred a documentary that was 1 hour on the interview of the autograph scam.
Wow.
Yeah, not even a scam, but the fact that he was laundering money through his father, talk about getting on planes.
That's it.
The
grandfather. But how about Cliff Kingsbury?
Oh, dude.
He somehow came out worse. That's the most underrated aspect of the doc. Is Cliff Kingsbury. It's like, yeah, I knew he was hungover. I knew he was chilling, but you know what? That's how Johnny Football rolls. I'm going to get the best out of him. How about Cliff sitting there just chilling like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, but Cliff is like, what was I supposed to do? Right? Like Cliff's like, yo, he's here now. What am I supposed to do? Like, if you want to talk about another element that I think could have been made more interesting in the presence of that story. And this is something I don't think we talk about enough, is that we don't think of alcohol as a drug, right? Like, we see alcohol destroy so many people's lives and everything else, but we take drinking in college as just kind of this thing you do, and we don't associate it with what I think for most people is a significant anxiety
100%.
that comes from moving away from home and everything else. 100%. Like, this should be more of a sad story in the way that in the way it came out there. And I just came away at the end of it being like, what was the purpose here? Like, why was I watching this? What was I supposed to get out of this? Because I ultimately didn't really get anything.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Bomani, man, the Right Time Podcast. What else you got going on
for
the next few months?
More often.
Oh, yeah. Well, the podcast will be back soon, and it will be the right time. Like, all of that's the same. Right. We just kind of figuring out where the home is going to be. And then from there, like, I'm working on, like, the reason I can talk about that Manziel thing like that is I'm trying to work on some documentary stuff.
Nice.
I pay a lot more attention to that stuff. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm lucky enough that I got the security and wherewithal that I can start working on some things that are a little bit more ambitious, rather than just trying to find some place where somebody can cut me a check so I can go out here and fire off these tapes. Like, I kind of want to work on some other stuff, so those are the things that I'm kind of moving towards. But on occasion, I like firing off a tape. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, stack that HBO money, my man, and best of luck with you. I know you worked on you read for the Randy Moss story for 30, right? If I'm not mistaken, with Jason Williams, Rand University.
Yeah, I worked on that one, and I'm just one cool thing about the job that I've had for a long time is it allows you to meet a lot of really interesting people who do really, really, really interesting things. And so what can happen now? Hey, man, a lot of real cool stuff can go down that'll probably, for me at least, be a little bit more personally exciting than some of the things I've done in the last couple of years.
All right, Bo, we appreciate the 30 minutes, man. Our fans are loving you, man. We'll have you back on, especially during the Warrior season, man, because I'll have to ask you how to navigate this Warrior season. We both work in the media out here, and we're like, damn, how do we go up to Chris Paul and say, hey, man, welcome to the Golden State Warriors, welcome to the Bay, when all we have done is spit straight hot fire at them and just getting off these takes when it comes to CP3. But, Bo, we'll take... Go ahead.
And his memory's long, by the way. Yeah. Just so you know. I think, I don't know this for certain, we were supposed to interview him around the book that came out, and he bailed on us. And it dawned on me, I did an interview with him like 12 years ago where I tried to jokingly ask him about hitting people in the crotch, and he didn't find the humor in that at all.
Yeah, no. All these dudes, Bo, I know we're going to let you go. All these athletes have long memories. Draymond, Steph, we both made the Steph doc kind of slandering the Warriors, saying, yeah, the Celtics, they're younger, more athletic. I'm like, damn, we made the doc in the wrong way.
Oh, God, I have no idea what's going to happen the next time I see Steph Curry. Like, a lot has I've had the opportunity to say very many things that have been incorrect. I'm very curious how that's going to go.
Bo, take care, man. Thanks for the time, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Anytime. Bomani Jones, the Right Time Podcast. We'll be back soon. That was a lot of fun there. Yeah. Well, Bo, a lot to dissect. I didn't even know we were going to go down that rabbit hole.